On the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz comes an unprecedented exhibition about one of history's darkest moments. Auschwitz, not long ago, not far away, features more than 500 original objects, first-hand accounts, and survivor testimonies that tell the powerful story of the Auschwitz concentration camp, its history and legacy, and the underlying conditions that allowed the Holocaust to happen. On now exclusively at ROM. Tickets at rom.ca.
Hey, we're on the Benchwarmer. Slightly different intro voice in your ear holes today. We're having a special episode. Jamie is off this week. He is celebrating / not sleeping / at work after the birth of his third child. Big mazel tov to my co-host Jamie on a healthy baby. I'm going over there to meet the baby, I think later today. As well, we have a guest host. In order to fully unwrap the kimono of the Benchwarmers podcast just a little bit, we're joined by our regular silent partner, producer and known hoophead, Michael Fraiman. Michael, welcome to the on-air part of the Benchwarmers. You're on the other side of the microphone today.
Thank you for having me. Hello, everybody. I know very little about sports and slightly more than little about basketball, which I'll talk about a little bit, although not primarily.
You know a lot about Jews.
I do know a lot about Jews. And also I want to say, big hearty mazel tov to James. Looking forward to having him back. I don't know if he's going to come back next episode, but he might.
We'll see. How long is his... You're the producer. How long is his pat leave for the podcast?
I mean, he's also a lawyer, so maybe ask his full-time job. I think it's more stressful.
The full employment situation is.
But I do hope he comes back soon.
Yes,
because I'll tell you this: I cannot do this show more than once every 6 months.
Yes. Oh, your knowledge. There's only so many Jewish basketball players you could talk about.
I will just say the exact same thing every time, and nobody will find it interesting. So
this is a good question. I've asked Mike before. Of all of the NBA owners, I think the one I want the most on the show is Steve Ballmer. How's the Ballmer get going?
Non-existent? I don't know.
Okay, we'll work on Ballmer.
I think the inevitable exit interview of Tannenbaum is really where we're at before.
That's what we're trying for. That's option one, and then Ballmer 2.
That's actually the priority.
I ran into Keith Pelly on a golf course last week.
Oh,
yeah.
And did you ask him why they fired Masai?
No, but the person I was playing with had to restrain themselves from doing that.
Jeez.
Like, they met Keith. I worked with Keith many years ago, a few companies ago. He remembered me, full politician mode. Love it. And I introduced so-and-so, and they recognized his name and went, oh, whoa. And then as soon as he walked away, she said, it took all I had not to ask about Masai.
Oh, jeez.
Wow. But he probably gets it everywhere.
Yeah. He's the face of it.
He is the face of it.
But look, that's not even Jewish sports news. We sent you on assignment.
I went on assignment this week. Yeah, well, I was at one of racing's biggest events, auto racing, something I talk about much to Jamie's chagrin, was this weekend in Toronto. The Honda Dealers of Toronto Indy is what it is called now. It was first called, I think it was called the Benson and Hedges. And then it was called the Molson, and maybe it was the Du Maurier Indy. And then they had to stop cigarette brands. We really miss cigarette advertising and racing. You think about the old Ferrari car that was painted like a Marlboro box that said Marlboro on the back. It was very cool. The Rothmans, Williams, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, cars that are painted like vape pens just aren't quite the same.
Yeah, aren't quite as cool. But we've got the quite Jewish sport of Indy racing. There's at least 1.5 probably Jews that were in the race this weekend. We'll talk about that. And potentially the most famous man in the world currently in racing is Jewish. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes too. We're trying to figure this out. I'll go through the story. And we're working on it. So I was at the Indy this week. I was there on Thursday and Friday, where sort of the paddock preparations are happening. I spent a while hanging around the McLaren garage, hanging around the Prema garage, home of the 1.5 Jewish drivers. The first Jewish driver races under the Israeli flag. First guy to do that in a very long time in Indy
Wow.
is a guy named Robert Schwartzman. So step back a little bit. Indy racing traditionally races on streets. It is one level basically below Formula One. They race which is the highest racing in the world. They're open wheel cars, which means they look like those fancy race cars with like the one guy in the middle and the four wheels around. And they go in laps over and over and over again. It is a mix of
downtown
endurance
Toronto,
and
right?
precision. This was in downtown Toronto. It was around the exhibition grounds.
Yeah. I remember how loud it gets when it went back in the summer.
It gets loud. It gets loud all over the city, which is very strange. But so that was the race. As a rookie this year, there's a rookie who's making some noise, had a pole at the Indy 500, their most famous race. A guy named Robert Schwartzman, who races for Israel, even though he was born in Russia, and is proudly Jewish. I hung around the Schwartzman paddock for a very long time. I watched them build his car. Schwartzman, interestingly, works for an Italian team called Prema Racing, which is sort of like a half imprint of Ferrari. Schwartzman was a Ferrari backup driver in Formula One, so if anyone ever got hurt, he would come in. He never got a chance to race during a race, but now he's still sort of in the family racing in Indy and having a pretty good rookie season. He is still mathematically capable of racing, winning the Rookie of the Year. He's notable. We talked about this. The Indy 500 is based purely on maximum speed in qualification. This was a couple of weeks ago. We talked about it. So Schwartzman, I would say undoubtedly you could call him the world's fastest Jew. No Jewish person has probably ever traveled, other than like in an airplane. We've all done that, but has probably traveled faster on
I'm
ground.
the world's fastest Jew. I once flew all the way to Israel. Yeah,
exactly. So Robert Schwartzman is probably the world's fastest Jew on ground.
Land
he's an
Jews.
extremely good driver. Land Jews, land people. We tend to avoid risk as a people, but other than the Israelis who seem to relish risk in a strange way, Schwartzman being one of them. The second Jewish driver who's pretty interesting is not a rookie. He's a rookie last year. Is a kid named Nolan Siegel. So I reached out to the McLaren PR team to ask, does anyone know if Nolan Siegel is Jewish? In fact, watching him build his car in the paddock, I asked some mechanics, do you know if Nolan Siegel was Jewish?
Wow, you did journalism, Gabe.
They told me to please leave. No, they laughed and said, I don't know. The McLaren media person has not gotten back to me. I assume they will. I also asked about, we'll get there in a second. So
the phrase is, we did not receive a response by recording time.
Yes, we did not receive a response by recording. So just to show where they finished, the McLaren driver raced for McLaren, his teammate ended up winning, but there's a kid named Nolan Siegel. So what's interesting about Nolan Siegel is the UJA Federation of Toronto, the Jewish Federation of Indianapolis, and a bunch of Jewish racing fans all say pretty definitively he is a Jewish driver. We have not found any particular evidence of Jewish. So I worry it's one of those journalism situations where one person shoddily reports it and then everyone else quotes that reportage.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of...
And we find ourselves above that trope.
We're above that trope. We're doing our best. Yes, by a hair. We do ask a lot of people. We want to go through there. There's some evidence for and against Nolan Siegel being Jewish. His father, Mark Siegel, who's sort of a Silicon Valley guy. That's Mark with a C. Important to remember. As well, we don't really practice phrenology very much on this show. But if you take a look at Mark Siegel, I think he doesn't pass. If he was not Jewish, he would be like a visual Mike Jacobs all-star. Especially being a Northern Californian. The other thing about Nolan Siegel, in an Instagram post on a vacation in Montana, point against, his sister was wearing a cross. That doesn't preclude he might be half. So we're considering him until further notice, possibly half. Maybe the biggest piece of evidence we have, however, is in the race, he did finish 18th. So that could be possible.
Okay.
Schwartzman was pipped him by 2 in 16th.
You're saying he's Jewish by Beshert.
He's Jewish by Beshert, exactly. Exactly. They did finish quite after Christian Lundgaard, who in the paddock did offer me a Zin. I said no. I was just standing with him watching them build a couple of cars, and I looked at him while he was dipping, and he did the thing to me, and I said no, thank you. Nice guy though.
Cool.
Sorry, Christian Rasmussen. Nice
All right.
guy. So that was my experience covering an Indy. It is loud as hell. It is extremely loud. However, race workers are incredibly friendly dudes.
Yeah.
And I think Indy is sort of, because it's not the minor leagues, but because it's like the American League where the European League is really big. They're like thrilled to talk to anybody, is thrilled to talk to anybody. So it was a cool experience. I am still waiting to hear back. The other person who graced their presence at the Molson Indy, who is a really big deal, is a guy named Zach Brown. So Zach Brown is the CEO of McLaren. And McLaren is currently the best team in Formula One and the best team in Indy. They're undoubtedly the best racing team in the world. Zach Brown is another person who, phrenology would suggest one thing. He grew up in Los Angeles. His Wikipedia says he was raised Jewish. However, what the Wikipedia suggests, what the Wikipedia refers to, and we have word in with the McLaren team to get a definitive answer to this. When McLaren definitively answers this, we've gone through the American McLaren team. I've told them I had a credential. I was at the race. I was trying to ask around. We'll see what happens. Because Wikipedia for Zach Brown says he was Jewish. He was chosen to present a South African Jewish Achievement Award to South African racing champion Jody Scheckter. He talked about Jody's struggle being Jewish in the presentation. However, he does not explicitly say I was raised Jewish, but seems like some of the internet has taken that as evidence that Zach Brown is Jewish.
Interesting.
I know. So we're on it. I think Zachary Brown, I know a Zachary Brown who is Jewish. I think,
I was just going to say, I'm assuming this has no relation to Zach Brown of the Zach Brown Band.
No relation. They actually spell them differently.
Gotcha. Because that Zach Brown is, I'm just looking at Wikipedia, the 11th of 12 children who were born in Atlanta, Georgia, which I'm going to assume is not Jewish.
It's not Jewish. I think that Jewish country singer is also another. Unless you're Kinky Friedman, I think that's about it.
Yeah.
For Jewish country singers.
Slim Pickens.
Like this race. It's interesting you bring up Slim Pickens. My favorite person, I didn't meet him, but at the race this weekend, there is a non-Jewish race driver whose full name, legal Christian name, is Stingray Rob.
Wow.
Full name. First name Stingray, last name Rob.
It's like
not Jewish.
When my wife and I were chatting about what to name our firstborn kid, I walked by a sycamore tree and I wanted to name him Sycamore Fraiman, which I thought would
Sycamore Fraiman. That is a good name. That is a great name.
Let me tell you, vetoed quickly.
Put the kibosh on Sycamore Fraiman.
Yeah.
Call him Cy.
Yeah.
Cy is Jewish.
Yeah.
Oh, Cy. Is that short for Seymour? No. Sycamore.
I think it's cool. Anyway,
so
but Stingray's good too.
Anywho, after the Indy, Zach Brown, we don't know if he's Jewish. We're working on it. But if this would be like a huge deal if he turns out to be Jewish, as I mentioned, he's probably the most famous person in all of motorsport right now. Again, he's the CEO of McLaren. He is the face. He's not a driver, but he's the face and like public, perception of the guy who is in charge of the biggest and most successful racing team in the world. Like, they're the F1 champions. They're about to win F1 again. They're about to win they might not win the IndyCar champions, but they're very close. And Zach was at the race. He very rarely goes to IndyCar races, but it was in Toronto. It's a really big deal. And his driver won.
Wow.
So,
but
big knock
you didn't get FaceTime with him.
Oh, I tried. He is like, he's got the phalanx, the surrounding group of hangers-on and bodyguards, all of him at all times. And he signed autographs and like nodded at the press.
And they did their job in keeping away the crazy dude with the big hair yelling, "Are you Jewish?
Are you Jewish? Are you Jewish?" I feel like, we've talked about this many times before. Only two kinds of people care who's Jewish.
Yes.
Is Jews and Nazis.
Yes.
And they don't know if I'm one or the other. Probably Jewish looking at it.
I think anybody with eyeballs could tell which one you
are. Like both Zach Brown and Mark Siegel, I don't pass.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get a definitive answer on those two.
Good.
So we'll work on it to know if Wikipedia and the South African Jewish Sports Festival is, but we'll find out if the McLaren Racing America person gets back to me. We'll be the first to let you know.
On the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz comes an unprecedented exhibition about one of history's darkest moments. Auschwitz, Not Long Ago, Not Far Away, features more than 500 original objects, first-hand accounts, and survivor testimonies that tell the powerful story of the Auschwitz concentration camp, its history and legacy, and the underlying conditions that allowed the Holocaust to happen. On now exclusively at ROM. Tickets at rom.ca.
Now I think we should probably get to your specialty. For those who don't know, Mike is a pretty serious hoop head. So Michael, question for you.
Yeah.
The Nets Israeli duo, Danny Wolf and Ben Sharoff.
Yeah.
How was their time in the desert in Vegas?
First of all, I just want to be very, very transparent with our listeners. I did not watch every Brooklyn Nets Summer League game. I am not the expert. I'm not even sure if many Brooklyn Nets fans watched every Brooklyn Summer League game. James was surprised when I told him I watched some Raptors Summer League games. Summer League, for those who are unaware, the NBA Summer League means absolutely nothing unless your team wins or does well, in which case
it means everything.
It means everything.
Yeah.
Like Charlotte Hornets won. The fans want to raise a championship banner. They're thrilled that the Charlotte Hornets have won literally anything. And like, honestly, good for them. Like, mazel tov to the Charlotte Hornets. So the Jews.
Yeah, the Jews. Danny Wolf, Ben Sharoff.
Danny Wolf, Ben Sharoff. We chatted about them. You chatted about them last week with
the Twin Towers, the Twin Temples, the Twin Temples.
The Twin Temples. Chatted with them last week with Nick Agger-Johnson of No Ceilings. Great interview. And anyone who didn't listen to that should go back and listen if they care about Jews in basketball. They did probably slightly less than you would expect them to have done.
Okay.
They did pretty much what you'd think, but neither one was a net positive.
A net positive. A net positive.
That's right.
They're nets. Yeah.
They're nets. They're rookies. Summer League is the first on-court game with other NBA-adjacent players. So, we have no idea. Like, the caveat is nobody has any idea if this means anything, if they'll be in the league in 1 year or 3 years or after their rookie deal or whatever. What did we see? Ben Sharoff clearly has good court vision, can clearly handle the ball well. That's what we knew going in. Danny Wolf similarly moves pretty well for a 7-foot tall dude. Also good vision,
he can
good
jack
rebounding
the
numbers.
three.
So he can.
He didn't?
Did he? I'm just going to read this. These are the stats. So they both played 3 games. Danny Wolf had 25 minutes, Ben Sharoff 23 minutes. The numbers aren't that bad. Like, if I told you Danny Wolf got 9 points.
9 points in total or per game?
Per game, sorry. 9 points, average 9 points per game, 7 rebounds per game, and 2.7 assists per game for Danny Wolf.
That's legit. In 25 minutes per game?
That's legit. Now,
yeah.
If I gave you 2 percentages, and I said 36% and 33%.
Hoping neither of those are free throws.
No, free throws are 66. Those two numbers represent 3-point percentage and field goal percentage. Do you want to?
So we had a higher 3-point percentage than field goal percentage?
No.
No, the other way.
He had nearly identical.
Okay, so we
field
only
goal
took
percentages.
So we only really took threes. Yeah.
He had 33% from 3 on 3-point attempts per on average, and he had field goal percentage of 36. Just like bad efficiency, he did okay from 3, especially for a big man, but like really bad overall in terms of efficiency from the field.
And he's trying to figure out how the pace of the game too, right? That's another part of Summer League. It's probably the best quality any of these guys have ever played.
And you're allowed like 10 fouls, and like guys are fouling all the time. It's messy basketball, but they're figuring it out. Ben Sharoff, honestly, really similar story. No 3-point attempts. No 3 points made. 30.4 is his field goal percentage on average in those 3 games.
It's not great.
30%. That's bad.
That's
average,
bad.
I think I don't know what the league average is. I don't know if it's above 50. I think it might be like 48%. Somewhere in the mid to high 40s is like an average percentage for like any and all shots made from the court.
And big men tend to average higher because they get a lot of layups.
Yeah. like Jakob Pertl, famously of the Toronto Raptors, has like a 76% like field goal percentage because he's just always standing near the basket. Anytime he gets it, he can put it in.
And he's 7'3" or whatever.
And he's exactly. So big men should have an easier time doing that. So Danny Wolf did not. But again, maybe they were playing him closer to the perimeter, like you said. He did take like a disproportionate number of his shots were from three. Ben Saraf, like I said, 23 minutes, averaging 7 points per game, 2 rebounds per game, and 3.7 assists.
For a point forward, not great.
Not great.
Yeah.
Again, similarly bad efficiency.
But they're learning. Whoa, so you told me that. Do you know what the average field goal percentage is for the summer league overall? Not just the regular 48%, because maybe everyone is shooting like that.
I don't know if they have the overall numbers, but I'm sure that they're bad.
Okay, right.
I would
so
not
it's
be
not.
surprised if you told me it was. If you told me it was under 40%, I wouldn't be shocked, especially from what because you watch the game. Like one of the reasons people don't watch summer league is because it's not great basketball.
Right.
And you watch it and there's just turnovers all the time and like
lots of fouls
and guys go up for like dunks and they'll like slam it in. It'll just bounce up to the ceiling because
I find that so funny. A missed dunk that ricochets as far as possible is so like you want the like boing sound.
The Raptors' second round pick this year, Elijah Martin, had a few of those where he would just jump and slam it down and it would just skyrocket. And it's not great. You're like, oh, he really wanted that to be a poster and it wasn't.
Yeah.
So Ben Saraf and Danny Wolf. I feel like Danny Wolf, from what I gather, reading about it, following the Nets a bit more than I ever have in my life, it'll be easier for Danny Wolf to carve out a role both on the Nets and in the NBA if he doesn't stick around with the Nets, just because of his unique skill set. Like he's already an impressive looking prospect, and a 3-point shooting big is somewhat. I mean, it's the dream for everybody. Whether he's good defensively as well as sort of the kicker. Ben Saraf, I think, is going to have a much harder time just given who he is, given the role he plays. Like, you can have good court vision. You can make some nice passes.
It's hard to be LeBron unless you're LeBron, right? Like that prototype of player, everyone's trying to do that.
Ben Saraf is 6 feet 6 inches, so that is pretty tall.
That's
like
not
he has
quite LeBron height, but
no, he's got a height advantage over, say, undersized guards if he can make his body work and his wingspan work defensively, especially. I feel like defense is really where a lot of these guys at this point can make their mark if the efficiency isn't there. So
absolutely. Well, it's just hustle, right? Like if they have the athleticism and the drive, they could do it.
Yeah, and both Wolf and Saraf averaged 1 steal per game.
That's something.
Wolf got 2 blocks per game. Saraf 0.3.
Two blocks per game. That's not bad. It seems like he didn't ball out, but he showed some flashes. He's raw. He's raw.
But like I said, it'll be easier for him to carve out a place in the NBA as opposed to Ben Saraf. So rooting for both of them. I also do want to give a shout out because both those guys had like negative plus minus scores, which isn't always indicative of everything, but like it is what it is. I do want to give a shout out to one other Jewish player who was in the summer league because I was going through who played.
Yeah.
A guy I've tried to get on the show a couple times, but I never can, is Amari Bailey. Still around. I thought he was
still around.
I thought he was in Europe or something, but dude played 5 summer league games, averaging 18 minutes per game, 10 points per game, 45% from the field. That's closer
efficient.
to average.
Who is he playing for?
That's a great question. I couldn't see on the thing. I saw he was with an Iowa G League team right now.
Yeah.
He's with the Iowa Wolves.
Okay.
And so they're the G League team for the Minnesota Timberwolves. So I'm guessing he was on the Timberwolves Summer League roster.
Played on Charlotte 2 years ago.
Well, they're who drafted him.
Right. Okay.
But then they got rid of he was a second round pick 2 or 3 years ago. He was with Charlotte for a little bit, then they waived him. He was with the Long Island Nets. Could have been with Wolf and Saraf if they stuck around, but he left the Long Island Nets last year. They could have had 3
Jew lineup. That would have been pretty spectacular. Yes, it looks like he was a T-Wolf.
So I'm still rooting for him, and that gives me another team whose PR department I can reach out to because Amari Bailey's been around for a while. I do want to give a shout out to 2 other Summer League players whose names caught my eye. As far as we know, these I'm going to read them to him, and you guess what this is. One is a guy who's been around for a little while, always on G League teams, went undrafted. Moses Brown
Moses Brown. Ooh, Zach
And-
Brown related to Zach?
For all we know. And of course, another fella who's just on the periphery here, Judah Mintz.
Oh, Judah Mintz. I remember when Judah Mintz was in college.
These are your NBA 2K26 Las Vegas Summer League Mike Jacobs All-Stars.
Mike Jacobs All-Star.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I remember when Judah Mintz was in college.
That's a very Jewish name.
Yeah, it's a very, very Jewish name. And he went to Gonzaga. I remember that. Or Syracuse. Went to Syracuse. I'm sorry.
And just to be very, very clear, one of the top Wikipedia citations for Judah Mintz is the headline is Faith Family and how Syracuse's Judah Ja Mintz got his name. And the second paragraph is that he grew up outside of Washington, D.C., in Fort Washington, where he was surrounded by family and immersed in the church.
In the church, right, of course.
Lest there be any confusion about Judah Mintz.
Yeah,
very much
he's
a
not
Mike Jacobs
Judah.
All-Star.
Judah in the like Christian biblical, like the Philippian sense.
Yeah.
We often, one of the ways we've told this before, one of the ways we look at somebody's Jewish is we go through their social media and immediately someone's not Jewish if in their Instagram bio they have a Philippians verse.
Sure.
It's just like, oh, Judah Mintz, Philippians 19:3.
Yeah.
Like that's, know right away.
Well,
that
a lot of
not
basketball
Jewish.
players, honestly, are at least on the outside pretty religious. A lot of the, through God, anything is possible.
Oh
kind
yeah,
of.
do you know? I've said this before. My theory as to why so many professional athletes are religious is that they're the only people who can actually believe that their prayers come true.
Yeah, that's true. Well,
Right?
lottery winners as well.
Yeah, lottery winners. Yes, and professional athletes who have prayed to be this good forever, and it actually happens.
Yeah.
Scotty
Confirmation-
Scheffler being a great example. Confirmation bias.
Confirmation bias.
Well, thank you so much for guesting on the Jewish Summer League content.
Of course. Is there anything else?
The
is there anything else
biggest
happening?
news. So maybe the biggest news right now, a couple of big things. Alex Bregman is about to return for the resurgent Red Sox. Probably a really famous Jewish player. There was a story, moving on to baseball. There was a story a couple of weeks ago about Jewish athlete Max Fried, Jewish player Max Fried, who pulled a real mensch move. Where the story is Max Fried was offered by his coach to start the All-Star game, to be the All-Star starting pitcher, which is like an honor given to the best pitcher of the first half.
Nice.
And Max, being the mensch he was, gave it up. He said, no, actually, this other guy's better than me. Give it to him, which is the story they went with. And great, big ups to Max for the real mensch warmer move. We love to see it. Gave it to Tarek Skubal.
I would say that's a warm mensch move.
It's a more warm mensch move of Max, who's still in contention for the Cy Young Award, still one of the best pitchers in the league after signing with the Yankees. Pitching today, the day we record this, against the Blue Jays, as a matter of fact.
Oh, wow.
So, very exciting to see Max, do that. We're nachas from here. And another big news, which we'll talk about last week, the BYU, the Jewish quarterback at BYU, is no more. He is still alive. He's not no more, but he is transferred away from BYU to Tulane University,
Right.
one of the more Jewish schools in America, which we'll have a lot more coverage on in the coming weeks, coming up to college football season, as we'll be following Jake once again. But generally speaking, that sort of maxes out on the big coverage of Jews in sports right now.
It's the summer.
It's the summer. We're in the dog days. The
Yep.
week of the All-Star game in baseball, you're struggling for sports stories. And thankfully, Max Fried gave us a wonderful Jewish one.
Yeah. Well, it's a good time to have a baby, let me say, James.
Yeah.
It's a good
Damn
week
it
to
is.
take
Yeah,
it
it's
off.
true. He picked the off season. It was very, very kind of him
Yeah, exactly.
for this podcast. Hockey season would have been a disaster. So that should just about do it for today. I want to thank you so much, Mike, for being our guest host. Thank you to the CJN for hosting us. You could find us anywhere you find your podcasts or at the cjn.ca. Look for us in the coming weeks. Jamie will be back talking about Jake Retzlaff and other further sports. And good luck to Ben Seraph, Danny Wolf, Nolan Siegel, and Robert Schwartzman. And have a wonderful week, everybody. And Larry Tannenbaum, when you're ready for that exit interview, the microphones are ready.
I can't wait for James to get back so he can start doing the outros again.
Yeah, me too.
Thanks, everybody.
On the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz comes an unprecedented exhibition about one of history's darkest moments. Auschwitz, Not Long Ago, Not Far Away, features more than 500 original objects, first-hand accounts, and survivor testimonies that tell the powerful story of the Auschwitz concentration camp, its history and legacy, and the underlying conditions that allowed the Holocaust to happen. On now exclusively at ROM. Tickets at rom.ca.